Tonight on ABC News Live Prime, the Today Show host Savannah Guthrie's mother disappears, and it's now being investigated as a crime.
We don't see this as a search mission as much as we do a crime scene.
84-year-old Nancy Guthrie reported missing, last seen outside her home Saturday night. The sheriff stressing she did not leave home on her own, calling it a crime scene, what authorities found inside. Growing fallout over the release of more Jeffrey Epstein files. Lawmakers demand the rest of the documents be made public, while Epstein survivors, furious over unredacted names and images, want the website containing the files to be shut down. Our conversation with the survivor about this latest drop. An ABC News exclusive, John Quinones takes the trip home with the 5-year-old boy and his father detained and released by federal agents. This as a medical examiner ruling the killing of ICU nurse Alex Preddy a homicide. Late today, a verdict in the au pair murder case. The husband and father accused of killing his wife and a stranger he lured to their house, what the jury just decided. For more than a decade, Justice Anthony Kennedy was the deciding vote in some of the biggest Supreme Court cases in generations. In a rare on-camera interview with senior Supreme Court reporter Devin Dwyer, the retired justice speaks about his and the country's future in these turbulent times.
Do you still see this country as the example for the world?
It will always be an example for the world, but it has to be a good example.
President Trump orders a 2-year extensive renovation of the Kennedy Center, calling for a complete rebuilding of one of America's top cultural institutions. Is spring around the corner, or are we stuck with more weeks of winter? We have Punxsutawney Phil's answer. And it was a record-breaking night at the Grammys, from Kendrick to Bad Bunny to the messages left on the award show stage.
I want to dedicate this award to all the people that had to leave their homeland, their country, to follow their dreams.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Lindsay Davis.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Rhiannon Alley in for Lindsay Davis. We want to thank you for streaming. There is growing fallout over the release of more than 3 million pages of documents connected to the Epstein files. Some Epstein survivors furious their names and graphic images were not redacted. We talk with a survivor tonight about the ongoing saga, and we want to begin now with breaking news. In the frantic search for the missing mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie, the sheriff telling ABC News investigators believe Nancy Guthrie was possibly kidnapped, taken in the middle of the night while she was sleeping. This comes just hours after the sheriff announced investigators were treating the 84-year-old's home as a crime scene after he said authorities saw things that were, quote, concerning. The sheriff stressed Guthrie, who was last seen on Saturday night and then reported missing on Sunday, is mentally sound. Our Trevor Alt leads us off now from outside the home in Tucson, Arizona tonight.
Tonight, the heartbreaking mystery in Arizona. Investigators say Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie, disappeared from her Tucson home, leaving her cell phone behind. The sheriff's office telling ABC News they now believe she may have been kidnapped while she slept.
She did not leave on her own. We know that.
He says the evidence at the home tells them this was a crime.
We do, in fact, have a crime scene, and we're asking the community's help.
Guthrie lives alone at the house. She was last seen by Savannah's siblings Saturday night at 9:45. Friends alerted the family she missed church the next morning. The children checked the house and called 911, saying with Nancy's physical ailments, she couldn't have walked more than 50 yards.
Nancy Guthrie's home is deep in suburban Tucson, and a lot of the neighborhood is shrouded by this desert wildlife. It would make it tough to notice unusual activity going on. But there are cameras at the house and at surrounding homes that the sheriff says they are reviewing, hoping to crack this case.
The sheriff launching a massive search with help from the FBI, using dogs, drones, helicopters, and heat-seeking sensors. But by this morning, that search was pulled back.
They're going to step aside. We'll call them out again if we need to do more searching. But right now, we don't see this as a search mission as much as we do a crime scene.
Police say the Guthrie family wants everyone to know their mother has no cognitive issues and didn't just wander off.
Nancy Guthrie is of great sound mind. This is not a dementia related. She is as sharp as a tack.
But Nancy Guthrie needs prescription medication every day. Without it, they say her life is at risk.
Medication that if she doesn't have in 24 hours, it could be fatal.
Savannah has a close bond with her mother, often posting photos on Instagram. Over the years, Nancy Guthrie has joined her daughter on the show.
Mama, great job. Love you. Thank you.
Just 2 months ago, Savannah appeared with her mom from Tucson, where Nancy talked about why she stayed in Tucson all these years.
Just the air, the quality of life is laid back and gentle.
In a statement, Savannah Guthrie and her family encourage anyone with information to contact the sheriff.
Trevor joins us now from outside of Nancy Guthrie's house tonight. Trevor, what can the public do to help with this case?
Well, Rhiannon, the sheriff and the Guthrie family are counting on the public to help them because this is such a difficult case so far. And what they're urging people to do is come forward with any information, any video that they have that might be able to help. We want to share the tip line. The number's 520-351-4900. They stress there is no tip too small. Again, they are counting on the public. And of course, Savannah Guthrie says the whole family is focused on the safe return of their dear mother.
And we all hope she gets home safe. Trevor, thank you. Anger and questions over the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. More than 3 million pages of documents dropped. And some Epstein survivors are furious. Their names and graphic images have not been redacted. Here's our Pierre Thomas.
Tonight, fresh anguish for nearly 100 victims of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein after the Justice Department accidentally released their names and reportedly some of their images as well. Today, attorneys for victims demanding that all 3 million pages made public last week be taken down, telling a judge every hour matters. The harm is ongoing and irreversible. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche has acknowledged mistakes were made.
Every time we hear from a victim or their lawyer that they believe that their name was not properly redacted, we immediately rectify that.
But previously anonymous victims say that's not enough. I have never come forward, wrote one woman, identified as Jane Doe. This is devastating to my life. Please, I'm begging you to delete my name. Tonight, fellow survivors like Danny Binsky speaking out.
For survivors who have never, ever come forward, this is heartbreaking.
And the New York Times reporting that DOJ published dozens of nude images of young women or possibly teenagers before taking them down when they were alerted. The latest DOJ release, which officials say is the last one, included hundreds of mentions of President Trump, most of them in newspaper articles. Trump and Epstein were friends in the 1990s. When Epstein was arrested in 2019, Trump said they'd had a falling out and hadn't spoken in 15 years.
They released 3 million pages. It's like this is all they're supposed to be doing. And frankly, the DOJ, I think, should just say, we have other things to do.
Trump has denied any wrongdoing, and the Justice Department has said they found no reason to charge anyone else with crimes. But tonight, a who's who of rich and powerful men forced to explain why they apparently maintained communication with Epstein after he was convicted of sex crimes. Everyone from Elon Musk to Giant's co-owner Steve Tisch to Trump's current Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick to Britain's former Prince Andrew, who was pictured in these photos leaning over a young woman lying on the floor. All the men say they have done nothing wrong and insist they knew nothing about Epstein's crimes. But tonight, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer saying Andrew, who was stripped of his royal titles because of his entanglements with Epstein, should testify before Congress, saying Epstein's victims have to be the first priority. Rhiannon, tonight DOJ says it has taken down thousands of pages of documents that may have included names and pictures of victims. A judge has scheduled a conference for Wednesday to discuss whether more can and should be done. Rhiannon, the victims say this is all causing them even more pain.
Pierre, thank you. For more now, we are joined by Jeffrey Epstein survivor Danny Binsky. We are so happy to have you. Thank you so much for spending your time here with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
The files were dropped on Friday, and as you know, but a lot of our audience might not realize, lawyers representing you and the other survivors have asked 2 federal judges for the files to be taken down over what they contend are widespread failures to redact names. You said you found your own name, and even some of the women who did not publicly come forward have even found their names. So my question to you is, who do you blame for this, and what would you like to see happen here?
I think the DOJ really needs to answer. I think we really need to hear from Pam Bondi. Really, we've been trying to draft letters to her. We've been talking to, I believe, a survivor did actually write a letter to Todd Blanche. We've been asking in every interview, we've talked to nonprofit organizations, and we have asked time and time again to talk to DOJ, and they have not responded to survivors. And I just think that there's a lot of information that survivors have that could have been very helpful in this. There are a lot of things that are mislabeled or misrepresented, and it would have been just really great to be able to have a survivor there on hand who can sort through some things and say, this is Florida, this is New York. I found my own name in a memo pad that said Florida redacted. I was never in Florida. It was not redacted. So, we're seeing all sorts of things just pop up. There's just no rhyme or reason to any of it. It really does feel like an intentional thing that they did this, So I don't know. Yeah, I think,
there's a lot that surprises you there.
Yeah, there's a lot that surprises me.
Is it your understanding there's more that will come out from this?
They're saying no at this point. They're saying that this is it. And that is incredibly disheartening because we know for a fact that Virginia Giuffre named 40 abusers. And we need to hold those men to account, right? And so it's just the fact that they're saying that there's nothing else out there just feels so wrong on so many levels. I don't understand why, we have 3 million and we've seen that. And they said that the other 3 million were to protect survivors, to make sure that identities were protected. And we know that that is not true at all. When all of our identifying information is out there, when you're outing Jane Doe's, it's horrific and egregious to think that, I found an image of myself that was redacted. Survivors know what they're looking at, right? So when I'm looking at this image, I'm looking at the border of it, and I know exactly what it is, and my heart sinks, and I have that feeling all over again, like that feeling of traumatization and just that feeling that lives in the body. And that's me who is public, and that's a redacted photo. I cannot imagine the weight that is carrying that feeling of a nude picture of it's child pornography. And that is how is our government doing that to victims? I just don't understand. And somebody needs to be held accountable for it.
You guys, you and the other survivors, you are a really tight-knit community. You've grown very close.
Yeah.
So since Friday, what have they been saying? What have you guys been talking about?
Yeah, so personally, I had a really hard day on Saturday. I felt like I couldn't get out of bed. I felt like I couldn't take enough showers. I just felt so awful and gross and depressed. And we got on a call all together, checking in, how is everybody? And it was listening to Amanda Roberts, who is Amanda and Sky, our Virginia Giuffre's family, and listening to the fight in her voice, and then hearing other survivors, there are so many that just felt like we are strong together. And it did. It restored my faith in this fight, and it restored that you can't stand back. I think there's such a chilling effect that is happening from this. It's always been about more than just Epstein and Maxwell survivors. It has been survivors at large and as a whole. Survivors make up a huge population in our country. We stand for a lot more than just ourselves.
Oh, wow. What a powerful message. Thank you so much for being here, Danny.
Thank you.
We appreciate you sharing your story. I can tell how hard it is for you.
Thank you so much.
Even now. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Today, President Trump ordered the Kennedy Center closed for 2 years. It was just weeks ago that his handpicked board renamed it the Trump Kennedy Center. And tonight, the president now says it will be renovated at a cost of more than $200 million. Here's Rachel Scott.
Tonight, as audiences decline and artists pull out of performances, President Trump announcing he will shut down the Kennedy Center for 2 years for a top-to-bottom renovation.
It's in very bad shape. It's run down. It's dilapidated. It's sort of dangerous.
The Performing Arts Institution was conceived as a living memorial to President John F. Kennedy. Last year, President Trump declared himself as chairman. And about 6 weeks ago, the center's board, which he appointed, voted to rename it to the Trump Kennedy Center, a new sign going up the very next day. The president now saying the center will close in August for a $200 million makeover.
I'm not ripping it down. I'll be using the steel. So we're using the structure. We're using some of the marble, and some of the marble comes down. But when it's open, it'll be brand new and really beautiful.
Critics note President Trump made a similar pledge when he launched construction for his massive White House ballroom. He ultimately ended up tearing down the entire East Wing. Tonight, members of the Kennedy family outraged. Maria Shriver saying this is all happening because entertainers are canceling left and right, and that the president hopes closing the building will get everybody to stop talking about the fact that everybody's canceling. It comes as the president remains fixated on the 2020 election, which he lost. Even tonight saying this.
I won that election by so much. Everybody does it.
Last week, FBI agents raided the election office in Fulton County, Georgia, carrying out 700 boxes of records, including ballots. Tonight, sources tell ABC News President Trump personally spoke on the phone with those FBI agents. Sources say the call was arranged by the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who was there on the scene. President Trump lost Georgia in 2020. President Joe Biden defeated him in the popular vote by more than 7 million. And the Electoral College, 306 to 232. It wasn't close. The president now says elections, which the Constitution says are to be run by the states, should be nationalized. That Republicans should, quote, take over the voting.
The Republicans should say, we want to take over. We should take over the voting in at least 15 places. The Republicans ought to nationalize the voting.
Tonight, the Senate's top Democrat sounding the alarm.
You think he believes in democracy? Does Donald Trump need a copy of the Constitution? What he's saying is outlandishly illegal.
And Rachel joins us now from the White House. So, Rachel, what else are you learning about Tulsi Gabbard? And if you can give us an update on where shutdown discussions are right now in the House.
Well, Rhiannon, we are learning that Tulsi Gabbard was on the ground there in Georgia at the request of President Trump. We are also learning that those agents are now going through those ballots and voting records from 2020. But again, the president lost that state back in 2020. There were 2 recounts and the election was certified. Meanwhile, there is this bitter divide happening over on Capitol Hill over this partial government shutdown that we are now currently in. President Trump and the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, are now trying to get their party in line to get this across the finish line and passed over in the House. You have several hardline Republicans that are now hoping to attach an unrelated elections measure to this bill to fund the government. The president is encouraging his party to vote for it and end this partial government shutdown this week. Rhiannon.
All right, Rachel Scott for us at the White House. Thank you. Now to the stunning upset in Texas, where a Democrat won the state Senate race in a special election. Taylor Ramett, a labor union leader and veteran, defeated the Trump-endorsed Republican candidate by more than 14 percentage points. It's the same district the president won by 17 points in 2024. Ramett's victory ensures his seat only until early next year. Here's what he told ABC News Live earlier about potentially holding the seat for a full term.
Well, my odds seem pretty good. I won twice already. I will be winning a third time. I'm going to show up and work hard like I always have been.
Ramett can win a full term with the general election victory in the fall. And now to the verdict. A short time ago in the case of the husband and father in Virginia accused of killing his wife so he could have a new life with his au pair. The jury found him guilty on all counts. Here's Mola Lenghi.
Tonight, a Virginia jury finding Brendan Banfield guilty of murdering his wife and a stranger as part of an elaborate plot to start a new life with the family's au pair.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of aggravated murder of Joseph Ryan and Christine Banfield as part of the same act.
Banfield now faces potentially up to life in prison without parole. Prosecutors pointing to photographic and digital evidence, alleging Brendan Banfield posed online as his wife, Christine, to lure a stranger, Joseph Ryan, to the family home for sex in February of 2023, instructing him to bring a knife and zip ties so that Banfield could frame the stranger. Prosecutors alleging it was the husband who then shot the stranger and stabbed his wife.
I was able to see him stabbing her.
The family's au pair, Juliana Perez Magalhães, testifying as the prosecution's star witness, telling the jury Banfield told her he wanted to get rid of his wife. But Banfield later taking the stand in his own defense, claiming it was the stranger who killed his wife.
I saw him do a downward stabbing stroke, and that's when I fired at him.
And tonight, Fairfax County prosecutors calling the crime monstrous.
It's monstrous. I mean, that's really what it is. It's monstrous.
Rhiannon, Brendan Banfield is scheduled to be sentenced in May. As far as that au pair, as part of a plea deal, she previously pled guilty to manslaughter. Now that this trial is over, she'll be sentenced in the coming weeks, Rhiannon.
All right, Mola Lengi, thank you for that. New developments in Minneapolis tonight as federal agents are still on the ground. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem just announced that body cameras will now be deployed to every agent and officer in the state. And an autopsy report on the death of ICU nurse Alex Preddy listed the official manner of death as a homicide, adding he was killed by multiple gunshot wounds. Meanwhile, a 5-year-old boy and his father, whose detention sparked nationwide outrage, are back home after a federal judge ordered their release. In an ABC News exclusive, John Quinones spoke with father and son on the flight home as they prepared to reunite with their loved ones.
Feliz means happy, and that's how Adrian Conejo Arias and his 5-year-old son Liam are feeling following their release from a Texas detention facility, spending more than a week in federal custody.
Do you want some gifts?
ABC News exclusively joining the father and son on their journey back home to Minneapolis Sunday. Conejo Arias, originally from Ecuador, says they were arrested unjustly.
Es injusto que arresten a personas que solamente vienen a este país es a luchar, a sacar adelante a su familia.
But now that they're going back home, Liam is looking forward to reuniting with his mother and his brother. The U.S. District Judge ordering the pair's release in a blistering ruling, writing that the case has its genesis in the ill-conceived and incompetently implemented government pursuit of daily deportation quotas, apparently even if it requires traumatizing children. The judge, including the now viral image of Liam the day he was detained in his driveway, arriving home from preschool. Underneath the picture, 2 Bible verses, one of which is John 11:35. Jesus wept. Conejo Arias describing the conditions inside the detention facility as not great.
They could not give him medicine? No le podían dar medicina?
No.
Alleging that Liam became sick while there and was denied medication. The father and son's detainment sparking national outcry. The Department of Homeland Security says ICE did not target or arrest a child, claiming that when agents went to arrest the father, he fled on foot, abandoning his child.
El gobierno dice que abandonaste a tu niño. The government says you abandoned your son.
I asked Adrian about that account. He tells me he was walking a few feet ahead of Liam, trying to alert people who would come out and who could help them. He says, I love my son too much. I would never abandon him. The judge also taking aim at some of the Trump administration's immigration enforcement tactics, writing, administrative warrants issued by the executive branch to itself do not pass probable cause muster. That is called the fox guarding the henhouse.
Your message to the immigration DHS?
Pues mi mensaje sería que no sean tan injustos con la población latina. Y así hay muchas familias que están también encerrados. Y no es justo que estén pasando por eso y que esto también estén pagando los niños, porque hay muchos niños también hasta encerrados, cuando lo único que tienen que hacer ellos es estudiar y estar seguros en su casa con sus padres.
Our thanks to John Quinones for that. There are new details tonight as the FBI investigates a possible illegal biological lab operating inside a Las Vegas home. The alleged operator, a Chinese national. Here's Chief Investigative Reporter Aaron Katursky.
Tonight, the FBI is testing whether mysterious vials found in an upscale Las Vegas home contain potentially infectious and deadly viruses like Ebola, Zika, and COVID.
LVMPD's counterterrorism section and our Armor Task Force, in partnership with the FBI, immediately initiated a joint investigation and began developing detailed operational plans to address this potential threat.
Investigators in hazmat suits uncovering a possible biological lab, scouring this home for hours, Law enforcement sources told ABC News they recovered 1,000 pieces of evidence, including unknown substances labeled in Chinese. The homeowner is a Chinese national who was arrested in 2023 after authorities in Reedley, California said he operated an illegal biological lab that was funded by Chinese banks and contained thousands of samples of potentially deadly pathogens. Sources said investigators returned to that warehouse in California as they try to determine if there are other locations with potentially hazardous materials. Records show the same owner has nearly 24 properties in and around Las Vegas that are now being searched. The property manager is under arrest now, Rhiannon, on charges of disposing of hazardous waste. The sheriff said the substances found in the home are consistent with biological agents. They'll now be tested. Rhiannon?
Aaron Katursky, thank you for that. Coming up, from Bad Bunny to Steven Spielberg to a very rare TV appearance, we look at some of the biggest moments from the Grammys. Plus, a rare on-camera interview with retired Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy, considered one of the most influential figures in America.
Do you still see this country as the example for the world?
It will always be an example for the world, but it has to be a good example. And we're falling a bit short of that. We have to work harder.
And after more than 100 years of doing business, the once popular outdoor clothing company that's now shuttering all of its stores. It was the music industry's biggest night last night. The 68th annual Grammy Awards were held in downtown Los Angeles. Trevor Noah hosting the event one final time. And here are some of the evening's biggest moments by the numbers. Bad Bunny, of course, making history for the first time ever. A Spanish language album. His Debí Tirar Más Fotos taking home the biggest prize, which is Album of the Year. And Kendrick Lamar again took home the Best Record Award for Luther. He led all nominees this year with 9 nominations. And he won Best Record last year for Not Like Us. Sharing Lamar's limelight was Jack Antonoff, who produced Luther. The win made Antonoff just the 4th person to win Grammys in the 4 major categories of Album, Record, Song of the Year, and Best New Artist. Steven Spielberg became the 22nd person to win an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony, or an EGOT in awards parlance. Spielberg received his Grammy for producing the music by John Williams documentary, which took home the Best Music Film Award. And Lauryn Hill made a rare TV appearance, gracing the Grammy stage for the first time in 27 years to honor Roberta Flack, who died a year ago. And starting next year, the Grammys will be exclusively simulcast on ABC, Hulu, and Disney+. Coming up,
it's Punxsutawney Phil!
It's Groundhog Day. So, did America's most famous marmot prognosticator, Punxsutawney Phil, see his shadow this morning and predict 6 more weeks of winter? And the NFL already has us looking forward to next season, announcing for the first time ever that a regular season game will be played in Paris. We'll tell you why there, who will play, and all of that when we come back. Welcome back to Prime. Here's a look at the stories making headlines right now. DOJ officials said they took down several thousand documents and media from its website concerning late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. According to a letter filed by 2 federal judges, the material was taken down because it included victim identifying information. They cited technical and human error. It comes after survivors requested the site itself be taken offline due to the exposing of names and personal information of nearly 100 survivors. The DOJ's letter, however, gives no indication that the government intends to take the site down. A Florida sheriff announced an arrest in the kidnapping of 2 sisters, ages 12 and 15. They were allegedly taken over the weekend by a 19-year-old man they began talking to on the gaming platform Roblox. Investigators believe he was taking them back to Nebraska before the Georgia State Police pulled his car over, finding the 2 sisters safe inside. And this month marks the 100th year our nation has celebrated Black History Month, the milestone encouraging civil rights organizations to engage young people on the full telling of America's history. This comes after President Trump began his 2nd term by claiming African American history lessons are meant to indoctrinate people into hating the country. So far, the administration has dismantled Black history exhibits at national parks and most recently removed an exhibit on slavery in Philadelphia just last month. Coming up, From abortion to same-sex marriage, the turbulent state of America. Don't miss the rare on-camera interview with Justice Anthony Kennedy, the decisive vote in some of the Supreme Court's biggest cases. Plus, let the frenzied countdown begin. The Devil Wears Prada 2 trailer has finally dropped. For more than a decade, Justice Anthony Kennedy was the decisive vote in some of the biggest Supreme Court cases in generations and considered one of the most influential figures in America. And tonight, in a rare on-camera interview, the retired justice speaks about his legacy, from Bush v. Gore to abortion to same-sex marriage, and the future of the country in these turbulent times. Here's our senior Supreme Court reporter, Devin Dwyer.
You don't hear cases anymore, but do you still informally weigh in behind the scenes?
No, very careful about that.
Retired Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy is a giant in American law and still at the center of where landmark decisions are being forged.
Do you miss the work?
Oh, of course.
You do?
Oh, yeah, of course. But I don't know what AI is. I mean, really, it was time for somebody younger. Younger.
At 89, Kennedy still keeps chambers inside the court, just steps from where his colleagues are making history.
The monumental docket that this court right now is dealing with, the tariffs and the firing power of a president, birthright citizenship, race and gerrymandering.
Many of them on emergency motions.
Yeah. I mean, is the collective magnitude of this moment really as significant as a lot of us feel like it is?
I think so.
Yeah.
Kennedy gave us a rare look behind the scenes at the court as he promotes a new book looking back on 30 years on the bench.
You always said you didn't fit the mold of a conservative or a liberal or an originalist or a progressive. You sort of defied all of those categories.
There wasn't one philosophy, one theory that was so prominent that I wanted to adhere to it.
For over a decade, he was considered the man at the center of a narrowly divided court, casting key votes on free speech, abortion, the death penalty, and gay rights.
Time magazine in 2012 put you on the cover. What did you think when you saw this?
Well, it was interesting for me. I thought it might have been a little overblown.
Kennedy reveals in his book that in 1992, as he crafted an opinion that would end up affirming a right to abortion, he was so conflicted he contemplated resigning.
It was necessary for me to put my name on a decision that the woman had a right to do what I thought was a grave moral wrong.
Were you in some sense relieved when the court overturned Roe then, years later?
I don't usually comment on the court's decisions. I just hope that there is a discussion in which the voice of the infant can be heard.
It was 25 years ago that Kennedy found himself at the epicenter of the contested 2000 presidential election. He now reveals that he was the justice tasked with writing the unsigned opinion in Bush v. Gore that ended the Florida recount and handed a victory to George W. Bush.
Would you have written it the same way if it happened today?
Well, I think it was right. The thought that we would see a legal impropriety in a presidential election case and let the case stand and not hear it? Hello?
On no set of issues was Kennedy's impact more sweeping than gay rights. His opinion struck down laws criminalizing same-sex intimacy and in 2015 extended marriage rights to same-sex couples nationwide.
How does a one-time altar boy from Sacramento, a devout Catholic, end up so passionately defending the dignity of gay and lesbian people?
It was a process over time. I began to learn about the hurt and the anguish and the desires these people had to live a wonderful life and contribute to our country.
Do you think your body of gay rights cases will endure?
Well, that's for the next generation to decide. Stare decisis, the rule that a precedent should be given great weight, in part depends on reliance.
Sounds like you're pretty confident it'll hold.
Well, we'll see.
This ring I give you.
In the decades since his landmark ruling on marriage, parts of Kennedy's opinion have become part of popular culture.
Equal dignity in the eyes of the law.
Words now read aloud at wedding ceremonies of all kinds.
It seemed to me a good lesson to teach that the law protects all.
Kennedy says his California roots and deep devotion to family left an indelible mark on his view of the world, early on learning lessons about our shared humanity and of love and loss.
The sudden loss of your sister Nancy, the loss of your mother, the loss of your brother Tim, all, I think, within a year. And later, the loss of your beloved son Greg. And that's a lot.
We often think that we're going to be knocking on heaven's door. We forget that the Lord is knocking on our door to say, remember how beautiful this world is, and remember how, despite sadness and grief, you can still find joy in the memories that you have and in the future that you build.
His future would take him to Washington in 1988, when President Ronald Reagan nominated Kennedy, then an appeals court judge, to join the highest court in the land.
You were the last justice confirmed unanimously. What does that say to you?
That partisanship has become too important. And I've told senators this, they have to look not just at political parties, but at judgment, temperament, experience, and so much else.
Intensifying partisanship in the Trump era and what Kennedy calls vulgar political rhetoric, he says, have thrust America into a crisis with global implications.
Somebody has to start setting the right example. We should have a campaign against vulgarity. We have a duty to show the rest of the world that free speech is necessary and that it works.
Do you still see this country as the example for the world?
It will always be an example for the world, but it has to be a good example. And we're falling a bit short of that. We have to work harder.
He says that goes for this Supreme Court as well.
I worry a great deal about it, and I'm very concerned that some of the cases attack judges, fellow judges. This is not the way the court should write its opinion.
Has the court changed significantly since you left?
Yes, I think so. Partisanship shouldn't be a major factor in your thought, and the hostile, fractious rhetoric, it seems to me, brings partisanship back. And that's wrong.
Is that part of your still being here, walking these halls, sort of trying to keep that message alive?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you say on that?
I don't know if they're listening, but
you try.
His audience includes two former clerks and mentees who joined the court in his footsteps, Justices Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh, now part of Kennedy's legacy.
Do you see your influence on them?
My hope is yes. They're wonderful. They're very, very fine judges.
Did it hurt in any way when they voted against your precedent in Dobbs? And
no, not a personal hurt. But you can't have personal hurt in this profession.
Humility in the law and humanity in public service. Kennedy modeling what he says he hopes the next generation will become.
Did you ever think you'd grow up to become someone who could help reshape American life in such a profound way that you did?
No, of course not.
You never liked that label of swing justice or decider. You really had some humility in what this court was doing.
You have to realize that you're a very small part of this ongoing search for truth and justice and wisdom and fairness.
How do you want to be remembered?
As being fair and honest.
I think he played a bigger part in that than he realizes. Our thanks to Devon Dwyer for that. Coming up, a sneak peek at our All Access with Kristen Stewart. Stewart talking about telling her truth and advice to anyone who is struggling with their true selves. And it is Super Bowl week, and Herm Edwards is here with his big picks. The century-old retailer closing about 200 stores across North America. The most watched groundhog in the world makes his call. Does he say spring is around the corner, or is winter here to stay? And it's almost too good to be true. The Devil Wears Prada 2 trailer is finally here. Those stories and more in tonight's Rundown. Mass thieves made off with more than $50,000 in Seattle Seahawks merchandise during an early morning heist at a sports store near their stadium in Seattle. Police say the security footage captured 3 masked suspects breaking through the front door, seizing merchandise, and exiting through the same entrance. The owner of the store said the burglary only took 2 minutes. The suspects managed to flee the scene before police arrived, and no arrests have been made. Eddie Bauer's preparing to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, thus closing down an estimated 180 stores across the U.S. and Canada. According to sources familiar with the plan, the company has changed ownership multiple times since its founder, Eddie Bauer, sold the company back in 1968. Bauer's credited with inventing the first quilted down jacket in 1940. In January, Eddie Bauer's parent company announced that the brand would be growing its e-commerce and wholesale business. Say it ain't so. It's Groundhog Day for Americans living in frigid conditions, as Punxsutawney Phil predicted another 6 weeks of winter on Monday. It marks the 5th time in 6 years that Phil's handlers have said he predicted a longer winter over an early spring. Despite the sub-zero temperatures, approximately 30,000 people braved the winter chill for Punxsutawney Phil's weather prediction festivities. The unique Pennsylvania tradition goes back nearly 140 years, with the first official Groundhog Day celebration taking place in 1887. A new tourist fee goes into effect today at one of Rome's most popular attractions. Visitors hoping to get up close to the Trevi Fountain will have to pay a €2 fee. It comes as some museums in the city began charging an extra €5 for tourist tickets. City officials hope to raise tens of millions of euros from the new fees and say that Roman citizens are exempt. The NFL is going to France next season. The NFL announced that the New Orleans Saints will play in the NFL's first regular season game in Paris. The game has been several years in the making for the Saints, who were granted international marketing rights in France in 2023. The Saints' opponent in the game will be announced when the NFL reveals its full schedule in the spring. Fashionistas got a new trailer for the hotly anticipated Devil Wears Prada 2. In the trailer, Andy Sachs returns to the hallowed halls of Runway magazine, where she reunites with Nigel and Miranda Priestley, with Anne Hathaway, Meryl Streep, and Stanley Tucci reprising their iconic roles from the original 2006 Devil Wears Prada film. The storyline is set to follow their fashion and advertising journey from New York City to Milan. The sequel hits theaters May 1st and comes 20 years after the release of the first film. Now we go to a sneak peek at tonight's All Access with Lindsay Davis, a conversation with Kristen Stewart on her directing debut, her thoughts on Twilight all these years later, and as always, speaking her truth.
At one point early on, you said that you were really trying to preserve the privacy of your relationships, the integrity of your relationships, and so you really didn't talk about it. And then, in such a drastic change, you go on SNL, your debut monologue, 2017, and you announce to the world, I'm queer. What made you have that about face?
I've experienced perspectives. I've had conversations with people who I've known, loved, and trusted, and still do, who thought, you know, your career would do better if you didn't go outside holding your girlfriend's hand. And I was like, so you want me to live a partial life? And you want me to uphold and perpetuate and sustain a system that excludes people. And I just can't do that.
The full All Access with Kristen Stewart is now streaming on Hulu and Disney+. Well, Super Bowl 60 is Sunday. The Patriots and Seahawks getting ready to battle it out in Santa Clara. It is time to find out what to watch for in the big game in this week's edition of Hanging with Herm. Joining us now is ESPN analyst coach Herm Edwards. Thanks for joining us, Herm. How are you?
I am well, thank you. I'm about an hour and 20 minutes away from the Super Bowl site. We're in Carmel, California, and it's right up the road, San Francisco.
Okay, before we get to the Super Bowl, because of course we're going to talk about that, I do want to ask you a quick question about a troubling trend in the NFL. Another year has gone and passed with the Rooney Rule, which the Rooney Rule intends to lead to more black head coaches in the NFL, but it's not producing results. It's now the 5th time since the rule was established that 0 head coach openings went to black candidates. You're a former NFL head coach. You led the Jets. You led my Kansas City Chiefs. You've gone through these interviews. You've been through the whole process. So what is your perspective on this?
Well, I think the intentions of the Rooney Rule were good in the beginning, but the problem lies in this. It's become maybe a way of, okay, I interviewed a couple guys to get that off my checklist, but they're not the top candidates. And I think this year is kind of a little bit of one of those situations when you look at offensive coordinators. Think about it this way. There are 32 offensive coordinators in the National Football League. Offensive coordinators. None of them happen to be black. That's a bit of a problem, especially when you want to hire a head coach on the offensive side of the ball, right? And there's no black coordinators on offense. You have a few on defense, but not on offense. So there lies a big problem because now all we talk about is what in the National Football League? The quarterback. How are we going to get the quarterback to play well? I want an offensive guy that can come in here and help the quarterback. Well, there's no offensive black coordinators in the National Football League. So that's just as bad as saying there's not any black head coaches as well.
Okay, so let's talk about the big game. We learned Patriots quarterback Drake May will battle through an injury to his throwing shoulder. So what do you expect from him on Sunday? This has got to be concerning.
Well, look, I mean, they won against Denver, his ability to run. I mean, he became the best runner on the field for the New England Patriots. He had 10 rushes for almost 70 yards. That kept him in the game on 3rd down. Look, you know, he'll be ready to play. You're not going to miss this game. Now, New England's been in it a bunch. He's never been in the Super Bowl, so this will be his first one. And I would be shocked if he doesn't play. At this time of the season, everybody hurts. Okay? It's a long season, especially if you get to this game. So I anticipate him playing.
You said everybody hurts at this point in the season. Even the coaches are hurt right now. Okay, so both teams have stellar defenses, but who you got? Who has the edge in this? Who's going to win it all, Herm?
Well, I'm like everybody else. I'm gonna go with Seattle. I just like the way, and I say this because of Seattle. They played in the toughest division in the National Football League, the NFC West. When you think about 3 teams came out of there, the Rams, San Francisco that was beat up, and the Seattle Seahawks. So I'm going to go with Seattle. I like their defense. They have the ability to rush with 4 guys. They won't allow Drake May to run. He's going to have to try to beat Seattle throwing the football. They have an outstanding secondary, so I'm going to go with Seattle.
So it's going to be a good game, though, but you got Seattle. All right, Coach Herm Edwards hanging with Herm. Thank you, as always. That is our show for this hour. I'm Rhiannon Alley. Stay tuned for ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you so much for streaming with us.